welcome to the second episode of Feel It, Heal It podcast, and we're in London this week for our Reiki Mastership. I'm joined with Preeya. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, my name's Preeya. As Wakaya just said, we've just completed the first day of our Reiki Mastership training. And in my other daily life, I'm a relationship manager for the Black Cultural Archives, which is a cultural heritage organisation based in South London, focused on telling the history of the Black diaspora and African diaspora around the world, but especially in Britain.
What does that even mean?
What, cultural heritage?
Yeah, what you do.
So relationship manager just being like, I'll manage how people, companies, individuals, organisations want to partner up with the BCA, shop for Black Cultural Archives, and if they want to give money as well, I'm the one that's basically the first point of call, helping people figure out how they can support us and ways to thank them as well.
Okay.
So that's what a relationship manager would do, but in terms of cultural heritage, is that what I mean as well? So that can be anything. It can be history, it can be documentation of like protests that have taken place in terms of even around here. So the Black Cultural Archives was set up after the Cross Massacre. So right now we're filming this in Newcastle, and the Cross Massacre happened like within a mile of this. Right. It was in the 80s, it was when a good few number of teenagers were murdered as part of a racist attack, and a whole house was set on fire during a birthday party. Really? Yeah, it really rocked the area, and this area back then especially was like predominantly Caribbean, in terms of like people who lived there and stuff. So it rocked the whole community, not even just in London, but the whole like Black British community across Britain. And then there was protests as a part of that, and then the founder of the BCA decided that Black people really needed some way of knowing their power, because the world around them was busy telling them that they didn't matter. It's the same thing that we're seeing today, Black Lives Matter. So there was a need for somewhere safe, somewhere that you could trust, somewhere that had the community's best interest at heart. And I think that's what the BCA is still really like, is doing today. Yeah.
What made you get into this kind of role, or what made you passionate about it?
I think a number of things. Me personally, I grew up so I'm Indian in terms of my heritage. In my culture, I'm a fairly dark-skinned Indian woman, and I grew up in Salford, which is a part of North Manchester. So for all the people that know, Salford back in the 90s was predominantly white, and also not even just that, it was a place that really had a lot of ignorance about different cultures and people, different immigrants that had come to Britain. And so I suffered from a lot of different racism, from physical attacks to name calling to bullying. I had to move schools because of that.
What were the physical attacks?
I was spat on by a group of lads. I was like pushed and shoved around by people that were my friends. This is when I was like in primary school and stuff. But still, it kind of sticks in your head, yeah. No, especially when you think that these people are your friends and stuff like that. Yeah. So, yeah, there was a lot of different kind of personal elements that led up to me being like, I didn't know that I was different until it was pointed out to me, like, you're different from me. So my understanding of self and identity came from an otherness from what was outside of me and around me. So I was always interested. Also, I was a geek as a kid.
Yeah.
I
don't that surprise me.
I know, it's weird, right? Oh my god, it's so freaking weird.
But do you remember, if you go back to those feelings of being made to feel like you're different, being attacked, what do you think that triggered in you as an adult?
Yeah, I think, as an adult, I kind of probably for a long time tried to assimilate in different ways and stuff like that. I think when I got to...
What does assimilate mean?
I tried to act as though I was part and parcel of the people around me that were busy telling me I was something else and other than.
Okay.
So I was trying to act, more what I thought was white, change my voice a little bit when I'm on the phone. And this happened, I think, more in like work situations. So my university degree was anthropology and media, and that's all about studying cultures and religions and societies. So I really got to understand more about what my actual identity is not through the lens of others.
And do you think your university degree came from the experience of that you had as a child?
Yeah, it was better understanding like what is identity actually. Everybody's been so concerned with telling me who I am, but what do I think about identity? What do I think about how we as people will talk about identity, and then kind of how am I going to use that for myself? And then that sort of led to me wanting to do charity work. And my career, like in the last 10 years, has kind of, I think, then just steered me even more so towards working in cultural heritage, working for equality, working for justice in terms of racial justice and all that kind of stuff. Because as somebody, a young person that had those experiences, and then going and doing the degree that I did, I expected sort of that I would be able to change the world. And I got shown very quickly that that's not going to be the case. You're much too little, you're much too northern, you're much too female, you're much too brown, you're much too whatever to be accepted in this very white, old male British world that we're in here. And that consistent message is when I got to the point of like, do you know what? I need to be in a environment that doesn't see the way I naturally am as an outspoken person, as someone that will call out injustice. I need to work somewhere that's not going to see that as a downfall, was going to see it as an asset to the place. And where Black Culture Archives was born out of almost an anti-establishment like protest to the treatment of humans, it was the right place for me to kind of start to blossom. And so I've worked there since October now. And it's been wicked.
What would you, so you were speaking about identity before, and that you were learning what identity is, what identity means. What would you say identity is then?
Well, for me, it's whatever I say it is. It's took me a long, and that might sound simplistic.
No, I love it.
It's whatever I goddamn say it is. World. Oh. But yeah, I'd say that it's however you feel to express yourself.
And it's changeable. And I think
it's not a fixed thing, and that's the thing of like the world wants to put us in boxes and call us one thing and let that be that. Because I'm an Indian woman, am I expected to be, agreeable? See, anyone that knows me, like
that's not the case.
That ain't me. Like I'm expected to be humble and quiet. Again, not me. Like so.
And a good housewife and all these.
And a mother already. And maybe
married.
Yeah, maybe I do something like a dentist or a doctor.
Yeah.
And I'm not any of these things. Does that make me any less Indian? No. And that's it. Like I said, I've been on a journey to get to that point. I think for a long time I felt not Indian enough to be like accepted into an Indian community. So I never had predominantly Indian friends or anything like that. But I also felt not English enough to be accepted by English communities. Like yes, I'd hang around. Like in my primary school, I only had white friends, but I innately knew that I couldn't really be my authentic self, or if I did, I would be questioned on it and maybe shunned aside for being different or showing that difference. So it was like when I was at school, I was just one version of myself, and then when I went to like family parties, or my dad's in a band, he's a drummer in an Indian band, so we went to a lot of parties. We had a big Indian community that we tapped into in Bolton, and when I was there, that's when I was my Indian self.
Okay.
But I couldn't show too much of my white self.
Yeah.
Like
this version of you that you'd created to fit into society.
Right. Yeah. So going back to that assimilation thing, that's what I was busy doing. I was assimilating to actually both Indian and English communities, environments, rather than just being myself, whatever that is. I always had an interest in Black history. Like when I was little, I taught myself how to write in hieroglyphics, like ancient Egyptian.
Yeah.
I was like 7 doing that.
What was it though about Black history that you were drawn to? What, like instead of Indian history or Pakistani history or Arab history? What was it about Black history?
I think I'm attracted to all of those. Like on my Instagram and stuff, I kind of post a lot of like pro-Indian sort of imagery or like sayings and stuff like that. But in terms of the way I see, what I'm bothered about is racial justice and representation and empowerment and all these things. And being in Britain, in the Western world, there's almost like a pecking order that is reflected in how slavery was put into place and colonialism, which is that white's at the top and black's at the bottom. Me being brown, I'm somewhere in the middle. But me only sorting my issues is not gonna solve the whole equation. It's gonna solve part of it. So really, for me to achieve my overall goal of like full rounded racial justice for everyone, for me it starts, and especially in a Western context, living here, it starts with working on the injustices that surround the black community, because if we make headway in that area, it will have a domino knock-on effect. Yeah, because for example, there's a link between the racist experiences of black people and brown people through colorism, for example. So like I mentioned at the beginning, and we're talking that me being a darker skinned woman for the Indian community has, you know, brought up loads of different experiences. And I think,
what did that bring up?
I mean, having family members sort of make fun of me for being dark, being called like names. There's a term that a lot of Indian Gujarati people will have heard of before called Kaili, which means like little darkie sort of thing. So it's like, and I would hear that, you know, come out of older uncles or like grandparents, like mouths and stuff, which then it plants that seed in your head, especially as a young girl, of I'm not beautiful because I'm darker skinned.
I was just about to say, how did that affect how you viewed yourself in terms of, as a woman, your beauty, your self-esteem?
I think I've only really accepted like how I feel beautiful in the last few years, if I'm honest. Throughout my whole 20s, I felt like I should be grateful for any man looking my way, and that I don't personify beauty, or certainly not in my culture. That's another thing that my friends group have often been predominantly black, so when I'm out with those friends, there'll be different groups of guys that will come to us, and in that environment then I was seen sometimes, you know what I mean, as how I felt, which is like, oh, you're attractive, you're beautiful, you're this, you're that, and I was looked at. And I think that sort of made me veer towards, okay, I'm gonna stick in this environment then, because here people get me. As I got older, I learned that maybe part of that would have been going back to the colorism thing again, which is that in the black community I'm actually considered lighter skinned, which gives me an automatic light skin privilege in that way of being that exists sometimes. Again, I don't agree with that either, and I don't want to accept that, but it took me a while to understand what was going on, and that's why, as I've understood each kind of nuance of my experience, being the person that I am, I think, working on supporting the black community here in Britain is kind of where it starts. I don't think it's where it's going to end for me.
So before you go on to anything else, how did you then, as a woman, and being told that you're not beautiful, you're not the thing that men are attracted to, hearing that from a very, very young age, what did you do to reject those beliefs maybe, or to unlearn those beliefs? Like, how did you unlearn those beliefs?
I think, like I said, it's only been more recently that I probably have unlearned those beliefs, and it's been a process of self-love, learning what that means, learning how to talk like there was a voice in my head always talking me down, learning how to work with that voice and change the energetic feel of that voice so that it's kind and loving and always speaking well, you know what I mean, into my energy.
How did you do that though? So was it a case of, because this is something that I speak about in my programs all the time, like it's a task that I put in my programs all the time.
So like practically how?
So was it a case of, so in my programs it'll be when you hear that voice that's saying, you look in the mirror and it's like, for me it was, you look fat, you look fat today, don't wear that, like there's rolls, that kind of thing. I would stop that voice and change it with you're beautiful, and whether or not I believed it or I felt it, I just trained it.
I think the way I started was through journaling. So
oh really?
Yeah, probably actually being really, journaling allowed me to be really honest with myself about what are you actually feeling? Because I'm also good at acting as though nothing's wrong.
Yeah.
Putting forward this perception of me being this confident, outspoken, I know my shit, whatever. So I think that, I had to get really honest with myself first, like, what's really going on? Why do you choose certain men that you choose for yourself? Why do you dress the way that you decide to dress? Why do you act the way that you act? And once
what do you mean by dress, the way that you decide to dress?
I think I used like hypersexuality as a way to feel more beautiful, putting my body out there, like maybe more than I really wanted to at times, but feeling as though that's what it would take for me to get noticed, because I'm too ugly to be noticed, or whatever. So, you know, get the legs out, get the boobs out, and I'd get the attention as well. The thing is, it would work in a sense of I'd get that immediate gratification and validation of I'm beautiful,
but then you'd see that the caliber of men that you attracted and the intention that those men had with you was based on that energy that you were putting out, because all you saw your worth in was sexual.
Right.
And what I have to offer with my body, as opposed to actually I'm really fucking intelligent.
I'm hilarious.
I'm hilarious.
I'm super humble. Really, really down to earth, grounded.
But then the men would never see that in you, because you didn't own it in yourself.
Yeah, totally.
And people can only see in you what you see in yourself.
I was putting that foot forward. I was putting that energy out there, and that's what they were taking at face value. Very few people would dig deeper than that, especially when if it is a bit of a superficial meet, like for example, you're out or online or whatever.
So the journaling.
But the journaling probably allowed me to get honest with myself about how I really thought about myself, and become aware and conscious of when I was bad talking, when I would like look at myself and go ugh, and recorrecting that exactly like you said, just saying stop, wait, hold on, what did you just do there? Why did you do that?
Where's that coming
and
from?
Very gently and lovingly questioning myself, becoming comfortable with my emotions.
And I think the key is curiosity. Curiosity with yourself is, for me, that's where I find the power in growth is. If I do something, okay, cool. We don't have to judge the thing that I've just done. Say if I've been an arsehole and I act in a certain way, we can all be arseholes, that's fine. But actually, when I come away from it and I go home and I'm like, but why did you do that? Where did that come from? There's something more. And I think it's getting curious with your behaviours and your patterns. And that for me, I don't know, is that the same for you?
Definitely, that's what I'm like. And I think the challenge for me though was pushing past the feeling of don't think about that, because that's not nice.
Because that's our go-to, it's our default.
Right, and because I'm always curious, I ask fucking shitloads. What's the matter questions are my thing, knowledge is, you know what I mean, like the one. But then actually, to gain that knowledge, you have to feel something, you have to feel through that, like, ugh. Oh, that's not me. I don't think like that. Yeah, you do.
We do.
Let your ego go for a minute and just like, even when you started asking me about this, if you noticed, I picked up
the rose quartz.
Right, because I'm like, well, I'm going to talk from my heart, and I just needed that little bit of extra support. As soon as I started holding it and moving it around, I felt a lot more at ease again. So it's still something that I'll struggle with, but I think that journaling about, really honestly about what it is,
and
being curious, and then learning that as like every time it happens now going forward, I can recognize it and have awareness a lot quicker now. So in the moment, I can stop and question it, and just really stop myself from even doing any more sort of energetic kind of.
Was there a pinpoint moment or a pivotal moment for you that got you to a place of, in terms of self-love, in terms of wanting more for yourself, in terms of being sick of your own shit and your patterns? Because this is something that, like, I've got a theme that runs through the podcast where it's like, what was your crumbling moment where you stepped up?
It was like, screw this.
Was there a particular moment?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a few, and it's probably like shifts depending on what area of life we're talking about. But I'd say circling back around to like that whole feeling of identity and self, and kind of what I am worth, what I am capable of, who I am, and how I'm going to decide to show up in the world. I'd say the breaking point for me was the last job that I had, which was fundraising manageable at a charity, and I'd worked there for 2 years. I worked really hard on trying to get things going there. During that time, my mum had got cancer. I was already kind of touching in and out of stages of depression, like finding myself in the toilets crying, and all these kind of telltale signs. And then when my mum got cancer, it just crushed everything. I took, I think, 2 months out. I was signed off sick from the doctors, and that same year, the job that I had called me into a room one day and basically said, you're done here, and told me to leave, and then proceeded to not pay me fully as my contract. If as my contract detailed, they should have paid me for a month in advance, sort of thing. So 2 months. They refused to do that. I had to take them to employment tribunal. It was pretty deep. But the thing that also triggered that was 4 months before that happened, and this would have been maybe only 2 or 3 months after I returned back from my time off from depression. My line manager and I had my annual review, and I tried to be honest and open. He's middle-aged, middle-class white man. He has a certain understanding, I guess, of the world, and he felt very uncomfortable when I told him that I didn't feel supported by him, after telling him and being open and showing my vulnerability about how racism, and in particular systemic racism, had affected my development in the role there, and my development as a fundraising manager, and kind of how that impacted my confidence to perform well in the role. I explained I didn't think it was from a lack of expertise or capacity. It was from a lack of confidence that him, as somebody who was senior to me and somebody technically that I should be able to look up to, could better support me with, and that there's no openness. I don't feel he's somebody I could go to talk about this, and it would help me more if he were to show up in that way for me. He got very uncomfortable, he got very red in the face, he spluttered, he said he didn't really understand. I kind of tried to explain it further. He said that he'd never had anybody else, i.e. another person of colour, who he line managed telling this, which has got fuck all to do with my experience. And I think that, as also the way that they conducted the meeting was technically illegal. They didn't give me prior warning. They didn't allow me to have a representative, and there was 2 of them in the room, both senior to me, to let me know this news that the trustees had decided that I was no longer to be working there.
Was it that when the depression kicked in, or because
it was already happening? The depression was already there,
and
for sure.
We've spoke a few times before. Because it wasn't just the role, it wasn't just that, it was
build up.
You knew that you weren't meant to be in that job, didn't you? And there was a feeling internally that was saying, step up, Preeya, stop playing it safe, leave the job. It doesn't matter what is going to happen.
Something is going to happen unless you need
to leave this job. And it was resisting the internal voice that was telling you, you are here for more. And I feel that was the trigger point to the depression. What do you think?
The depression, trigger point for my crumble was that meeting.
I meant the depression.
So the depression, the trigger point for depression, I don't think there was a specific trigger point. It happened just kind of bit by bit. One day I looked up and I thought, I'm always sad. I wonder why I'm even here. I don't see a purpose in me. I think I'm useless. I think, you know what I mean? It was all those kind of feelings, and that came from my career, really, because I saw my career and my work as the way I'm going to change the world and the way I'm going to impact. And I felt like nobody would let me, nobody would support me. It's kind of like the world's out to get me sort of thing sometimes. But yeah, I knew instinctively that a 9 to 5 wasn't for me. I knew I needed to be leading something of my own, and I wasn't being allowed to do that. And so that consistent round and round of getting jobs and leaving them and blah 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 whatever, I think started to trigger depression in me, because then I'd just be in these jobs in a 9 to 5, just sat there, you know, being told to do dog's body work, which I'm like, I'm worth so much more than this. Like, I've got this degree, I've got this experience, why am I only doing this? Why am I having to turn up to this office at a set time, sit in a little cubicle and type out and then go home? Like, it just, all of it wasn't for me. But every time I looked around, like, it was a bit, I didn't really see any other ways of being. Like, there seemed to be some people that were able to tap out of that whole 9 to 5 track, but it was like, oh, well, they're creatives and they just do their own thing, and I don't have a skill like that.
And I feel like, as well, with not only society tells us that this is what we're meant to do, but also, especially with you being an Indian woman, it's, tell me if I'm right or wrong, but I think there's a lot of pressure from, I know there is, being in my dad being from Iraq, in that culture, it's like you are to work and to go off and do something creative is looked down upon, or to go off and do something, the process of it is looked down upon if it's not bringing you in loads of money straight away.
It's the money. Yeah, I don't think, I'm blessed with a family who are not too, like, traditional in that way, or strict in terms of Indian sort of values, but they're still there underlying, and like most parents as well, like my family just want to see me happy and successful, and they know that I'm capable of a lot, they support me in that way. But if it's it does feel like sometimes if it's not in Indian culture, I'd say in Indian community in general, if it's not something that you can sort of say in one word or explain, like doctor, dentist, teacher, like they're a bit like, what the fuck?
What is
that? Like, what do you do? You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, oh, auntie, I don't even, how do I start to explain, like, you know what I mean, cultural heritage? Because I don't think, not everybody even knows what cultural heritage is anyway. Like, do you know what I mean? I don't know how popular it is, but certainly in Indian culture, it's like, you know where you're from, get on with it. And do you know what I mean? I think that, there was some elements of pressure from my family that overall they were supportive, but culturally, I definitely felt that. Also, like, a lot of my cousins and, who are older, and my sister who's older, they are, not all of them, but some of them are very accomplished in what they're doing and kind of followed a pretty straight track in terms of, built their career, found a partner, settled down, continue to build a career. You know what I mean? And that works for them. And I felt often like I was letting people down because I've been given all these, I've been given all this help and I've been given all these opportunities and I've been allowed to be myself. And it's a bit like I'm chucking it back in the face by going, I still don't know what I want, and I'm probably just going to be unemployed for a bit and whatever.
Did that add to the crumble?
Yeah, because it felt like perceived, because they were there for me, but it felt like I didn't have anyone that understood or that I could talk to about this. And especially when it came to the sort of race element and the experiences through work that I'd had, that was hard for them to understand. I think that the whole of it, I don't think they could really relate to the way I was putting it out there and projecting it. And so I didn't feel comfortable all the time going to family members and stuff like that about this. I mean, luckily for me, I had a really good friends.
Yeah.
Which you are one.
I am.
And I've had a lot of good people come in at the right space and the right time. So that whole having your tribe, like your family is your family and your kin is a connection you can't really test or recreate, but your friends are the family that you choose, which creates a whole different feeling to it. So I feel blessed to have that. I've never felt like it's been that big of a deal in terms of being Indian and my culture being the thing that's really put pressure on making me crumble, but it just meant that I didn't feel like I had somebody to go to when I did crumble.
I'm just going to move that out of the way.
Yeah,
because it's proper in my face.
Super in your face, yeah. I did think it might get there.
So
Sorry, I was trying to put it away.
It's fine. So you felt this crumble.
I did feel the crumble.
What happened?
So I got turfed out my job. Then I thought, I'll fuck this, and went to LA for 2 months.
Why does everyone do that? Did you see
because
last
I watch loads of movies.
Listen, did you see the last podcast? And the Latrice was like, so I quit my job, went to Morocco, Didn't know where I was going to get my next lot of money, but it was dead good.
Yeah.
I had a lovely time. I was sat on the beach and I was like, I've got no job to go home to, but let's enjoy it.
Yeah.
Why do we all do that? I think it's like freedom.
Yeah, it's like, do you know what? If you don't want me, fine.
I'll go.
You won't see me at all. I feel about that. Like, it's kind of that feeling. Also, it's because just having been in a different environment for me is like,
clears your head.
I love it because a part of it is like nobody knows me here. Nobody knows who I am. Nobody's going to put any attachment onto me. Even people that are messaging you that usually, should get back to that person when you're on holiday.
You don't have to. There's no what's the word I'm looking for? Expectation.
Yeah, there was none of that really. So I was basically just checked out of my reality for 2 months and just went there. Had a great time. To an extent, a lot of it was being really down and cocooning myself. I just cocooned myself, and you know, I spent a lot of time just sat in the park with crystals. Like I could have done that here, but it's not the same. You know what I mean? It's not the same at all.
Just sat in the park like,
I swear I sent you videos of me sat in the park like, look at the sun, Rakaya, oh my god, look at this crystal.
Find my way, what am I going to do?
Oh my god, I'm in late. Do you know what I mean? It was them ones. Like, I just needed to get away. I just thought, fuck this. I've tried for 10 years to try to be this person. Do you know what I mean? And it's not working. Like, and I'd got decent money. It was the exact type of job that I wanted. Like, decent commute. Everything that I'd said I wanted, universe had provided for me. And it just wasn't good enough. And it was that point that I was like, I finally got what I wanted. And
it's not
enough. It's nothing like even close to what I want or what I need. And I was devastated that I'd worked so hard for something that was not any way near good for me. Like,
do you know why I think that happens though? I think a lot of the times we outgrow what we want, and by the time it's but that's testament to growth. Yeah. If it's annoying, don't get me wrong, but I think that's testament to growth and how quickly you grow and how quickly you are brave enough to look at the things that's blocking you from what you want. But I think the reason why we outgrow, because it happens to so many people, a lot of my clients say the same thing, and I think it's because whatever we wanted at one point, we were wanting that from a certain level of awareness. Yeah. And then we grow, we raise our vibration, and by the time that's come, it's like, I've gone past that now. It's that's not enough. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I think it can feel frustrating when you experience that because you work towards a goal, and by the time you get to that goal, it's no longer what you want, and the goal has moved again. It's like, taking the piss. Can't you even just have a little bit of time to enjoy this? Yeah. And it's
never ending. It's
I don't get. And I just think, well, I look around and think sometimes like, well, how come everybody else seems to set a goal and achieve it?
And I think that's what's different. And I think that's what's different when you committed to growth, like in the way that I think me and you were quite similar in that way. Like,
we were ready for it. We knew we needed different.
And I think a lot of people play it safe, and it becomes and it's not like in a bad way, but a lot of people are quite content in playing it safe, and they settle and they feel like they've outgrown shit, but they won't move because they're not ready to look at the shit and make the decisions and change the life because that's scary.
Yeah, it is like shaking up your whole reality, essentially. That's what you have to do in order to realise what you truly want. And then activating yourself to actually go after that, to have the confidence to go, okay, that's what I want. And now, not only have I've done all this work to just have that awareness, now I've got to actually fucking put some action towards it. And go for it.
And then take on what are people going to think. And then take on, can I do this? Have I got it in me to do this? And then take on, but what I'm doing is so different to everybody. It's a lot of it, I think, is like, where will I belong in society if I do this? And I think that's something that's in us, in humans anyway. We want to belong to a tribe. And so when we feel like we're about to leave, our choices might take us out of that tribe it comes back to identity again. Who does that mean?
What does that mean for me? What does that make me like, and all that kind of stuff. I think the way that I've tried to get around feeling like shitty about that whole journey, like of that goalpost moving and is to two things really, like document more, like so,
journal,
right? Yeah, or even like, you know, picture taking, or even videos, voice notes to myself. I've done a lot of, or like writing a song or something like that captures exactly how I felt in that moment, so that in 3 months time, in 6 months time, in 5 years time, I can listen back, I can read back, I can watch back and go, I remember that. But it no longer
takes you back into that space.
Yeah, it takes me right back to how I felt, and then and only then do I actually realise, no, you've made leaps and bounds in terms of progress. Like, don't forget, don't forget what your journey was. I'm so quick to go next, that actually taking that time to be like, when I felt like that, now I can look back on things. I don't do it that often because I'm not. The minute I started doing it, it was just the knowledge that it was there was enough. Yeah. And so I barely read back on my journals, but for a little while or whenever I need to, I will to be like, oh my god, I can't believe I wrote that. What? Yeah. Who's that?
Who is that?
Yeah, who's that?
And it's like 3 months ago.
Literally, like, and I seriously can't recognise it. So there's that kind of document of stuff, but also there was something else I said before, but I just forgot.
Pictures.
No, there was like two things about like how I feel kind of better about that whole, the journey of kind of trying to achieve a goal, but that goal always moving. And I think, I said one was sort of documenting. Oh, that was it. This is something that Kumba, our lovely Reiki master. Kumba. Tell ya. Oh, she's a right gem. But yeah, she really got me to understand the importance of enjoying the journey, because I was so goal orientated. That is a bit of a cultural thing as well, where it's like, have a goal, like set it, achieve it, next. Like, she's like, it doesn't matter what you achieve or what you don't. What matters is how you decided to get there and what that journey looks like for you. That's what matters, because as long as you've got the intent, whatever the outcome looks like will be for your highest good. So enjoy, and if you're not enjoying it, why are you doing it? Yeah. And so that set the tone for everything.
But how the fuck did you do that? Because I know how goal orientated you are, and you're a Taurus, so you're very stuck and rigid.
Taurus Sun, Aries Moon, so that as a combo.
So how do you go from? How do you go from being like really regimental, because you were quite very fixed when we first met? It was. There was no flowiness about you.
It's like, this is what's happening, this is what I'll do.
And dum bum 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 bum. So how do you go from being goal orientated to enjoying the process and relishing in the journey?
I think in the moment, like, even just setting the intent that I'm going to try and enjoy the journey. Because
intention is so underrated.
100%.
It's so
people
underrated.
Think it's like, well, there's no point saying it if I don't believe it. You'll believe it once you start saying it. Just start saying it.
And I think when you set an intention, not only is that for you, but I feel like whoever you call upon, whether it's God, Spirit, Source, they see that and they feel that, and
they'll put whatever you need in your path for you to help you, even if you don't have everything. That'll definitely happen. So I think having that talk with Kumba and more than just one talk, and probably with other people as well. I have a lot of friends who are not as fixed in terms of their nature and stuff, and so learning from them, watching them, you being one of them, like, do you know what I mean? And just deciding that I'm going to enjoy the moment more. Even just saying that and setting that intention meant that when something was happening, whether it was like something good or bad, there would be a voice in my head of like, are you enjoying the moment?
Really?
And it's like, oh yeah, shit. Alright, okay, cool.
You weren't? Would you be like, enjoy this moment, Preeya?
Yeah, it'd be like, oh shit,
be happy.
Stop. Yeah, like, don't worry. So then it made me like not worry about, say like you're doing something and time is like ticking, you're thinking there's other stuff we have to do. But it's like, well, maybe the other thing you weren't supposed to do, maybe you're supposed to just do this. And because I set the intention, then that thought process would instantly kick in of like, is this what you want to do right now? Yeah.
So you went from regiment to living in the flow.
And I probably had to go swing right the other way at first.
And I think with living in the flow, when you do become it, when you get in the flow, you open yourself up to possibilities that you weren't even aware for yourself. Because you're in the flow, you can receive them.
You're not scared about anything. You're not questioning, well, where's this going to go? What's the purpose? You're not trying to set a plan. You're not trying to set a goal around it. You're taking in what's coming your way, the abundance of what the universe wants to offer all of us. You can just go, cool, come on in, I'll figure it out after you're in. And that's cool, and that's even testament to how I've started to view myself more positively. Like, I'm a boss, I've got this, I'm dead good at planning. Whatever's thrown my way, I'll find a way, I'll be fine. Like, and having that sort of thing of like, I trust myself to lead me. I trust my intuition, I trust my gut, I trust all of these things now a lot more. And that meant that intention set could just allow things to flow better and allow me to enjoy the journey.
And I think trusting yourself is it's a big one.
All part and parcel of self-love, really.
And when we trust ourselves, we can trust the world, we can trust men, we can trust women.
Main thing, you can trust the universe for all the blessings and abundance and whatever it is that we're just waiting to be gifted with. But our own selves or egos or belief systems are getting in the way of letting in those blessings. So I think that's happened. Like, that's just happened in abundance, like, so far. And there'll be days where I'm like, oh, it's not abundant. It's kind of just bits and bobs. But that's on me. That's because I need to do things slowly. Do you know what I mean? Like, if I was like gung-ho about it and like, come on in, loads of stuff will come to me, but I'm like, wait,
Stop.
Like
yesterday, the pillars.
Right, so yesterday in Mastership, we were talking.
To explain. Go on.
Oh yeah, so yesterday in Mastership, obviously, Reiki Mastership, we were talking about how the difference between how Kaya and Kumba would kind of set things, new sort of ventures up, or even like establish new ideas. And for me, with my fixed sort of nature and my planning self and sort of the way of thinking, I'm really certain that I have to set blocks, like pillars, a foundation down first. And whilst people are off busy doing their own thing, living in their best abundant life, I'm like, I'll be there in a minute. I can start finish these blocks, and I can totally join you in a comfortable mode that works for me. Like, and other people might see that as slow. Like, I'm free and like I'm working part time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't have certain social sort of factors, status sort of factors ticked off. But that, who cares? Like, that's what works for me. If I'm happy, nothing else matters. Like, that's it, because only me and only me is responsible for my happiness. Nobody else can make me happy. Nothing else can make me happy, and it's not to be found externally. Everything in terms of my happiness, power, everything has got to come from me, come from here, come from here. Come from here, all this chakra points, you know what I mean? So,
So it took that crumble for you to get to this particular place where you feel completely at ease in trusting, yes, I'm working part-time for a job that I love. I want to do it part-time because I have the ability to balance work and
my
social life, energy work.
Time for my family, that became way more important after my mum had cancer. I always knew the importance of family, but it was really put into sharp focus, like, actually, also, your parents, you may have this many years, or you may have, and things like that, like, thinking about mortality, I try not to think about it too much, but it's there, isn't it? And it's like, it's important that we have that time. So the amount of energy work that I'd done, the amount of shift that I'd had, again, it's about those building blocks and those pillars for me. Like, okay, I'm going to create this stability. I'm going to have a part-time job, so I've got time to work on my stuff. I've got time to do Reiki Mastership with you and feel it through. Next week I've got off, so next week's going to be about me letting this attunement flow all the way through me. I don't have to put it on pause, even for something that I love. I love you, but I love me more. So I'm going to make this about me. And even that as a choice is huge for me. I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have done that a couple of years ago.
I wanted us to also touch on how we met, because how we met was, 5 years ago?
Yeah, 4 or 5,
Through a joined friend, Lauren. And it was for wireless, weren't it?
Yeah,
for a
wireless
fucking
festival.
wireless
And
festival.
the joke of it was you and other friend Simone, who you guys came and stayed in my house. That was the first time I met you.
We'd never met
like,
you
you
before.
arrived and you were staying, like, but because you're obviously friends with one of my closest mates, it's like, for me, if you're friends, then I'll love you. If she loves you, I'll love you. It's not really, it wasn't difficult for me.
And it was funny with me and you because back then was a time where, for me, I didn't click with people. I didn't click with people quickly. Yeah. And I used to be a bit of a dick, didn't I?
We saw some of that. We saw some of that.
Wait, how? Where?
It was a few times over Carnival.
Oh, Carnival.
Who
is she?
Why is she talking to me? We saw up close and personal that Kaya does not like everyone. And I remember you told me that and I was like, oh, I wonder what she means. Fast forward like a week or whatever a year. Oh, okay, that's what she meant. She meant really everyone's
Do you know
not
what?
back
then, right, I very much kept, my circle was my circle. I didn't really like venturing out of it. And so when I met you, it was instant though. It was instant, but I just think it's funny. What I wanted us to go into was like how we met for a festival, getting pissed up, having the wickedest weekend because it was such a good weekend. Yeah. And it was just like, talk about synchronicities, like how we met in that way, in that context, and we got on straight away. My big thing is conversation. I love people that I can go deep with in terms of conversation. And we straight away, it was like, you don't shut up anyway. And I don't shut up. But we don't not shut up over stupid stuff. It's deep.
We're talking
meaningful.
About. We're actually clearing, we're releasing, we're doing all this energy. We weren't even aware.
And that's what I mean. Like we weren't even aware at this point.
Yeah.
We were meeting up for a piss up weekend to have a really good time.
Sit on a balcony, tanning, whatever.
Yeah. And so I just think it's crazy how we met in that way and how our relationship and friendship has then developed over time.
Yeah.
So we've went from meeting in that way to getting pissed up and to partying to then you telling me about a woman that you went to for Reiki, and I'd heard about it a couple of times and I was like, oh, okay. But the way you spoke about Kumba was like the sun shined out of every part of us.
Every goddamn one.
Yeah. Literally.
She's amazing.
And I was in the middle of going through like a really dark period in my life. Do you remember? And I was like, and feeling energetic stuff that I just didn't understand, which was similar to
very similar to me. Yeah.
So we were both like picking up on people's energy, but not realising and taking it on as our own. We didn't know what the fuck it was, did we?
No, I was scared at times of the shit that was happening. And then when I ended up hearing about some of your initial energetic experiences, I was like, that's way more scary. What the fuck's going on, guys? Like, we need help, come quick. Save us. I was scared at the beginning stages because I thought one of two things is happening. Either I'm elevating to some next level of shaman thing, or I'm going crazy.
Yeah.
It
was
two.
Crazy.
And I'm like, I'm either gonna be happening where I have to be put on medication and stuff, or I'm going to be able to figure this out for myself. I'm like, I really want to figure this out for myself. I don't want the other route of stuff.
And we're talking about stuff like sensing other people, like visions, hearing messages and
physical reactions.
Yeah, when being around certain people, or like knowing someone's going to message and then they message, or feeling someone is about to knock on the door and then they knock on the door. It was energetic stuff that I think is powerful, considering I think both of us were energetically aware and we were like, oh yeah, I'm spiritual, and that kind of thing. But there wasn't, in terms of like the work that we do now, there was none of that.
No, we weren't focusing on it like that.
Yeah,
I didn't even see energy work in that way because, and we touched on this yesterday during Reiki Mastership, but for me, like chakra points, having incense, even crystals, emblems, things that you can attach, symbolism that you can attach power to. All this sort of stuff is really like built into my religion. I've been brought up in Hinduism, so Hinduism is an offshoot of Buddhism, which is where the Reiki practice is like comes from, right? The understanding of chakra and energies. In fact, chakras have Sanskrit names, which is the ancient language spoke in India. So for me, I didn't see it as this. It was just like rituals that the older generation would do that I knew about and I did, but I didn't.
But you kind of took for granted.
I took it for granted. Really. I didn't understand the power of it. It'd been shown to me to some extent, but not really. Do you know what I mean? It was just rituals to me. It was just stuff that I did. I didn't understand the power of it and how the intent, set an intention would flip the scripts in every way possible. So for me, but going back as well to how we met and stuff like that, I think that it was all so organic, but there's definitely reason for at the time that you did, it had to happen before we were on the journey. I don't know why, it just instinctively I know that that's the case. We had to connect on
because
a
both
social
of us
level.
didn't trust people though.
Right. Yeah.
So I was really, and that's probably why I hated everyone, because I was a dickhead, wasn't I, when I met new people. And I was.
I never was thinking like, well, you're not to me, so whatever.
That's because there was an energetic, what's the word that I'm looking for? Familiarity. Like it was like, oh, I've known you before. Not from this lifetime, like.
But we definitely go way back.
Yeah. And that's why I clicked with you in that way. But I think the reason why we had to meet in that way was because we were both very defensive at times, and we were both quite shut off and guarded.
Nobody's gonna see our real energetic self. So
imagine us meeting, however it would happen, and then the shit that comes up when we're learning Reiki. Imagine Reiki 1 and I'm bearing my soul to you. It just never would have happened.
No.
So it had to happen in that way, very organically, and for us to sit on the balcony and have a drink and me say, oh yeah, well this happened when I was 3, and you'd be like, oh, this happened when I was 10.
And then it goes on like that.
And then it had to, I think that's the only way it could have happened.
Yeah, I can't see it happening any other way. And also the fact that the trigger was similar, that we were having kind of volatile, energetic experiences where they were very strong and you know, vibrating through us, and we feeling like passive entities. Like, what the hell's going on? We were both searching for answers, searching for knowledge, searching for ourselves. And Kumba.
And you found the remedy.
I was like, this is what we're doing in the business. And
told me about her. And then we went on to, and it's funny because I wrote a post about this on my Instagram today. And I was talking about Reiki 1. Where I walked into that. Remember when I started Reiki and I said to Kumba, well, I don't want a 9 to 5, so I might learn Reiki. That was my intent, remember?
To make
remember
it
that's
into
how
a
I started?
business.
I was like, but I didn't understand like the depth of it. And I remember Kumba saying, if that's your intention, that's probably not what you should do. And I was like,
That's funny because we've just been talking about it, what an intention is. It's like, that's probably not what it is.
But what it wasn't, I'll tell you, it wasn't that. It was my essence knew, my soul knew, this is your calling, but my mind hadn't had time to catch up with what was right for me and stepping onto a journey that I had no fucking clue what it would entail. I went into Reiki 1 thinking I was going to learn how to do Reiki.
And then that's that,
I had no fucking awareness that learning Reiki would mean becoming fully naked, like energetically, and exposing all these parts of me that I hadn't even had chance to look at.
How long have you been having Reiki treatments from Kumba before we signed up for Reiki 1?
I feel like it was no more than 6 months.
Right, so really quick, because I had a guess, true style of what I need. I need my pillars first, so it's going to be longer for me.
Whereas I was like, I like this.
I'm here, let's do it. Throw it all, you know what I mean? Throw my caution to the wind and off I go. Whereas I'm like, I'll be there in a minute.
Let me do my pillars.
So for me it was longer, so I guess I had a bit more of a build up, more time to ask questions, more time to know what energy work might feel like and stuff like that.
So did you know? I didn't know.
Well, also my intent was different than yours. So your intention was to kind of learn this new thing, so you had a new skill and you'd make it kind of your thing. And to be fair, that's pretty much what you've done.
Yeah. But the intention wasn't like to make it my thing in terms of make it a business.
Oh, just to have a new skill.
It was like, oh, yeah, I like what Cumber does to me in session.
Like,
I want to learn that. Yeah.
Okay.
Really naive and like,
maybe
let's see what this
wouldn't
is.
have done it otherwise.
I don't know if I would.
Yeah. If you knew the depth of it, you'd be like, I don't think that's for
I
me.
don't know if I'm ready to work through all that.
Yeah. Whereas for me, why did I decide to do? Because it felt like the next step. And for me, we were talking about being expansive beings, like the nature of the universe is to expand. And I've always felt innately that my knowledge should grow in order for my power to grow, that I should always be learning, never think that you know everything because you don't know shit, essentially. Yeah. And so like I started having these treatments, working with energy. I felt like it was helping me connect into more of self, talking about like religion and stuff, more of my identity, as well as just what I needed for me. And I didn't need to sign off anymore with depression from from the doctors and whatever. So I knew that it was helping me with that. And when she offered it to me, she'd offered it already, and I said no.
Before me? Oh.
Yeah, before she'd start giving you treatment, she was doing a Reiki 1, and her son, who is my friend who I know her through, had suggested to her, like, why don't you say Preeya, like, why don't you tell Preeya about it, because she might be willing to do it. Now this was with 5 or 6 other people that I didn't know, so I saw that and I was like,
which is the way Cumber usually does teachers.
That's how she does it.
She usually does it in 5 or 6 people.
Yeah.
However, the way we've always done it, we've done Reiki 1, 2, and now our mastership. She's always done it as us 3, and I think that's testament to how.
That's how it has to be.
It has to be, innit?
Yeah. Also,
and in the way that we push each other, and I feel like Cumber's able to. She doesn't she's professional and she's the teacher and she guides us, but she's also able to show a different side of herself
than she usually would with other clients. And I think that's why that panned out the way it did, because I knew instinctively, I don't mind opening up to you. I'm not opening up to random fucking strangers, don't know you, don't trust you. No, not happening. So I was like, I'm alright.
So did you know it was a case of opening up?
Yeah, I knew that it was like, because when I asked the questions, it wasn't quite clear at first. I'm like, so it'll be with other people that are getting treatments from you.
See, now you're smart, because I just say and see what happens.
I'm much more
such
cautious.
A yes girl.
No, but that's, you throw caution to the wind. I'm more cautious. Like, do you know what I mean? I'm like, don't know about. And the trust thing, which is the same for us both. That's how my trust manifests in it. That I'm like, hold on. Don't know about that. Don't know about you. Who are you? I feel energy too much to just have randoms in the fucking room. How can I trust you? What if I want to talk about race stuff and everyone in there's white? Like, all this other stuff was running through my head. I was like, that's way too much. I'm not going to be able to concentrate. And you know, it's not always cheap to be able to do these things as well. So I was like, if I'm investing in myself, it better be about me. I don't want it to be about anybody else. It was, you know, even that level of kind of selfish, how it looks in the outside world, that's another part of my self-love that I needed to know, like, this is what you need for you. So stick to your guns. Your intuition's telling you, no, that's not for you right now. And it did feel like a big investment at the time. And if I'm like, I'm not sure I want to do that, because it was sort of like, you learn how to become a Reiki, you know, healer yourself. And I was like, I just want to get it. So I was still just wanting to receive. I wasn't in the mode to learn and give back. I still needed what the healing that Cumber was kind of sending to me as my healer. And then she'd had the conversation with me again after she'd started giving you treatment, because she must have obviously given us
No, it was me.
Was it you asking her?
Yeah.
Okay, so I can't remember.
It was me. I said, will you teach me Reiki?
Right.
And she was like,
I asked Preeya a while ago.
Yeah, no, so it wasn't like, you know how she was like, and came to you with it. It wasn't like definitely. At first she was like, oh, okay, let me have a think about it. It was kind of, I think she was taken aback by me wanting to learn it. And then I was like, me and Preeya can do it. And then it kind of manifested from there.
I didn't actually know that, you know. I thought she was just like, put 2 and 2 together, giving us both treatment.
I was like, will you teach me? And she was like,
sneaky.
But what was I going to say before when you were talking? There was something that you said. Yeah, so with us learning Reiki, I think one of the things that I've really benefited from, and I know we've spoke about it before, was being able to have certain conversations that you don't generally get to have without somebody, the other person, feeling triggered, upset or angry or not speaking to you ever again.
100%.
Like there's certain stuff that in our Reiki courses, because during Reiki it brings up a lot, and it's because we can't elevate to a next vibration if all that's still in there. So whilst we're learning, we work through our own shit, don't we? A little bit like how counsellors have to have counselling. It's a bit like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
So during that, we've touched on certain topics where we've triggered each other, haven't we? And I think we've had to learn to get to a place where we can hold space for each other in that trigger and be like, okay, I know I'm triggering you now, but I understand that it's not about me, it's about you. And your reaction to what I'm saying has actually absolutely fuck all to do with me, and more about what I'm saying that's triggering to what has happened to you in the past, or one of your experiences. Which I think is actually a really beautiful part of our friendship. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that there's been moments of that, and even not even just in the Reiki itself, but like outside of the Reiki as friends, like there might be things that we said to one another, but what I love about when we are in those sessions with Kumba is just the safety of the space. So like you said, holding space for people is one of the most underrated things, I think, as well, of like the ability to do that and the want to do it. If you have somebody in your life that is willing and wants to do that for you, you better make sure you reciprocate and do that back, because if not, you are taken and that person will be gone. And or your kind of karmic ability to interpret the situation might be affected, because you are, you know what I mean, you're a leech essentially. You might end up being leechy anyway, and so I think that's really something that we all have a very acute awareness of when we're in our...
When someone's taken.
And like to make sure we hold that space for each other and be reciprocal. And that's why we feel so safe. That's why we're able to use that space to kind of even almost actively trigger one another to get that growth. Like I feel like we're not trying to piss each other off. That's not the situation, but it's more like there is not really any topic that's off limits.
Nothing. There's literally nothing. We could talk about anything and everything, and I think that is why we propel each other in terms of growth, and that's why we're able to trust each other, and to that's why it's so powerful when we're together, because nothing is off the table. And I think so much more people should actively work to have that kind of relationship with people, because it actually really helps you, instead of being fearful of having those conversations.
It's when you yourself, really. You ain't scared of the person, you're scared of yourself and what you're gonna show up as, and whether you can handle accepting you, really.
Accepting you, and whether you can handle somebody rejecting you for showing up as you.
100%. That whole thing of feeling like rejected, abandoned, all that stuff, it can be that trigger, and that's I think I wouldn't want to do Reiki Mastership or Reiki 1, 2, anything any other way apart from
with anyone else.
It's been us free, and there's I think if other people have been in the room, it's not going to work. We, like you said, we trigger each other, but also not even that. I think like even like Kumba as well, like we might be very different from some of our other clients, and I certainly know, like she's told us straight, like, you know, like, you girls, you give me life, like we allow her to be her more playful self, by simply being ourselves and showing up as our true selves allows her to show up as her true self. It just feels so,
it's beautiful.
It feels so nice just to be yourself, your most authentic self, and there is no judgment. It's a safe space. Even if something is said that, you know, isn't comfortable or is hurtful or is pain, the space is there to let it out.
And because the intention is never bad or coming from a nasty place, it's always coming from love. The intention is always pure.
Yeah.
And I think that's what allows us to have that space. So we started our Reiki Mastership yesterday, didn't we?
Yeah.
And so I'm going to be in London once a month now. So we're going to...
For 6 months.
So we are going to do some more podcasts down here, touch on some more topics, and I cannot wait.
That's going to be amazing.
I can't wait.
I'm so excited to see what comes up. I can't lie.
Nervous, scared, shit scared.
I'm scared.
Yeah.
Like, there's parts of it, like, but I'm saying that in, not that it's going to stop me.
Yeah.
I'm releasing.
Feel the fear and do it anyway.
Feel the fear, do it anyway. That's what I'm
Even
doing.
if I'm kicking and screaming all the fucking way. Like, just do it.
This is necessary. And we're about to be ballsbicious.
Yes. And I think it would be nice for us to document bits of it.
Yeah.
So like little videos and podcasts and stuff like that where we just touch on it for our own reflection, but also so people can relate to things that we talk about. People will be able to relate and find healing and peace from it, I think.
Yeah. And even if they're thinking of doing it themselves.
Yeah.
And like me, they need their building blocks.
And you know what? When I've done my mastership, I can teach, you know. So. But with that being said, I'm gonna wrap up. Because I got a train to catch. But yeah, so thank you. You've been on the Feel It, Heal It podcast. You'll be able to catch us on YouTube and Spotify. Thank you very much for joining us, Preeya.
It were absolutely bleeding.
Oh, it was.
I'll see you soon, you sexy muppets.